So I thought, yeah, it'd be fun, the chance to make a movie that's a cool movie, that's got a great storyline, that really could be, if we do it right, like a cult classic that would create this whole new genre of films and show people that, you know, these things can make money. My stage name is Legalman. I play Nathaniel Jones, Mr. Jones, on the Plantation. So I'm a slave-owning kind of dick, basically, somewhat of a drunk. I accepted the role because I really do believe in the material. I'm a big freedom lover. Andrew contacted me through my Patreon because he liked my podcast, and I don't have any acting experience. And when he told me about the project and said it was an expansion on Larkin's original piece, well, I'd seen that original piece a long time ago. And I mean, everybody in the movement knows Larkin Rose. And so I was like, yeah, I'd definitely be interested. I don't have any acting experience, but he was like, well, you know, having listened to your show, you know, you can really get animated with your voice. And he said, I think you'll do it. I think you're Mr. Jones. And of course, I also looked totally different at that point. I had very short hair and clean shaven, and so I looked nothing like it. And he said, oh, you're just so clean cut though. I said, oh, well, I mean, I'll just stop, you know, start growing my hair and start growing a beard. And so I want people, you know, I do my podcast, every kind of medium is different, you know. Pure audio is very different than video. And a movie, I love movies. I've always loved movies. I just love movie lines. I know tons of movies. Whenever a situation occurs, my mind goes back to a movie scene or a scene I saw on television where something funny was happening, and I remember that. And I'm not going to say it's completely dissociated, but it's similar to a lot of my life. I go through feeling like I'm observing my participation as opposed to being engulfed in it. And so I thought, yeah, it'd be fun, the chance to make a movie that's a cool movie, that's got a great storyline, that really could be, if we do it right, like a cult classic that would create this whole new genre of films and show people that, you know, these things can make money. And if they can make money, then we can make more of them. And you never know what's going to touch somebody. You never do. When I do my show, I never know. Some people come back and say, oh, that point, such and such. I'm thinking, that never would have stuck in my mind. And no matter what it is, everybody takes something different and has a reason why they catch on it. And it's like, well, with a movie, there's a lot of people who may go see a movie that are never going to listen to my show otherwise. They'll never listen to my show. They'll never hear the message. And I was like, okay, it's 3 weeks. I didn't know it was going to be freezing my ass off for multiple days at a time, but, you know, I thought 3 weeks to make something that's permanent, yeah, for sure, I want to do it. You know, you're giving a message that's a very hardcore message that's never heard in film. Film's always skewed left, super far left. Even films that are considered right are really, all they are is just kind of some constitutional conservative crap, flag waving nonsense. That's all within the box. This is outside the box. This isn't a commie film. This is maybe like a based film. The concept I have in my mind is that you make movies whose underlying message is about actual liberty. As opposed to, you know, say Patriot with Mel Gibson, you know, he makes Braveheart. Okay, he teaches freedom, a lot of people love it, but the underlying messages are more generalized, that we should have freedom. They don't direct people to the fact that the government is the reason we don't have freedom, that the only thing that's going to take it from you is the government. And the goal of this movie, in my mind at least, is to branch out. And I know Andrew also would like to be able to make movies like that just because they're such a good way to reach people, you know. So that's the concept. That's kind of what I signed on for, was the chance to, you know, let's see if we can, you know, make a movie that's good, that catches on. So we try to make some memeable kind of stuff inside there. They'll beat people over the head with something, have a very traditional narrative, the slave plantation-y thing, and then this very strange twist that I think people are gonna, a lot of people are just gonna be somewhat confused by, maybe catch on later. I think it's gonna be a slow burn, but that was a reason. I mean, because I sure am not here for the money. And the conditions in that last location were really tough. I mean, I was sleeping most of the day today just because I spent so many hours cold last week. And I don't get cold easily, but just standing still in those shoes for just so long, those very cold conditions, it just really wore me down. It's strange, the first week of shooting, we were at a nice plantation home. And really, it was mostly just sort of me, my wife, my cousin, and Mr. Smith. Generally, that was mostly all the people. And then it really changed when we moved over to the other location, where one, we were outside a lot and the conditions were tough, but we got a lot more people on the set who were going to be playing slaves. And for me, it was very noticeable to me to think, wow, seeing them dressed like slaves. I mean, they don't look like slaves. I know they're not slaves, but I mean, they're good actors. And so we go into these scenes and I'd have to be this kind of, haughty kind of dick, authoritarian that they were terrified of. That was at least my goal. I don't know if they were or not. That's people can judge whether I pulled that off.
One of many responsibilities I have here is to make sure the books are kept in proper form.
It affected me more than I thought it would. I was like, wow, that's really noticeable that, this was a way of life. That, this character I'm playing, they existed. I mean, they exist. They treated people like that. And it was surprising, I think, for me. It was surprising. The conditions were tough, but I was more surprised by both the conditions being so cold and the effect that it had on me. I know a couple of the actors, they weren't comfortable. I think even if the weather had been warm, they weren't comfortable just kind of playing that kind of, oh, I'm sorry, man, kind of crap all the time. It's a weird headspace to be in, just like my character it's a strange headspace to be in. And so it was unusual. I can see that a shoot that would go on for months, where you had to kind of stay generally in character for the most part for long extended periods of time. I could start to mess with your head depending on the character you're playing. I can see. I think the goal of Mr. Jones and Mr. Smith is Mr. Smith, of course, is the system for teaching the audience about what's going on. And Mr. Smith, there is no Mr. Smith in real life outside of kind of the string pullers behind the scene they're not a single individual. But Mr. Jones is a old world, let's say pre-democratic scam that they dreamed up in the 18th century. He's part of the monarchy kind of rule, where he's just in charge. He doesn't really need an explanation. He's in charge. These slaves are my property. I mean, I'm upset. How dare you ask me to apologize for how I treat my own property? That's one of my lines, and that's the king.
All right, Smith, I want some answers. What was that about out there? Why are you trying to humiliate me? Make me apologize for what I do with my own property?
Then my cousin, Mr. Johnson, he's really kind of a similar version, but now he's a fur trader who's come in as opposed to something else. But they're really just a platform to have these phony baloney elections. And you have to have, kind of the left and the right and the so-called choice between the government nanny state and the fake constitutional Republican kind of people. And ultimately, Jones represents a hybrid of the constitutional conservative freedom, liberty kind of thing. That's what my election speech is about. That each person will benefit from their own hard efforts. That, you know, the harder you work, the richer you get as an individual. And my cousin, Mr. Johnson, he pushes the, you know, from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs. So it's just a platform with regards to the allegory. And just for people to see that all the people who you apparently have a right to vote for are all just, they're all working together. There's no difference. It's true that many of them may be true believers, and I'm convinced many of them are. Not at the high level. At the high level, they know, because they've seen the Jones Plantation movie for 30 years. They know. They've seen their part. They've been put in their place and given 3 extra houses and millions of bucks in a Swiss bank account. No, they've seen it. They're not ignorant anymore, but a huge number of people at the low levels, the local politicians and stuff like that, who don't last. They are true believers. They're Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which of course is absurd, you know, made in the 40s to push the World War II horse shit that you can still do. You know, that's all it is. It's just a platform to tell the story. And like I said, Mr. Smith isn't really a piece in the puzzle. He's a way, just a theatrical platform to install the system, as opposed to the American Revolution, the French Revolution, which was pushed from behind the scenes by people who understood that chattel slavery and this kind of monarchical system doesn't work very well. It's not efficient. That's the only reason they got rid of it. It's not efficient. It's not because they care about your freedom. It doesn't work as well to hide the fact that you don't know who to go after. See, on the Jones Plantation, the people, they are driven to this concept they can vote for me or Johnson. And they think that's great. And they also have another candidate that has no chance of winning that they could also vote for. Of course, none of that's really going to change anything, but they don't know that. They think that this other thing exists. And it's completely different than the risk I'm running when we bring Smith over, which is that my wife is ready to pack up and leave because she's afraid we're going to get our throat slit and she's going to get treated even worse prior to the time her throat gets slit.
Those coloreds can sense weakness, and they are gonna smell blood like a gator to chum. They're gonna kill us both. And you know what they're gonna do to me before they do that?
Sweetheart, just trust the plan. Trust the plan. We're gonna fix all this.
Because it's very easy to see who the bad guy is when you have a king or a dictator or a Mr. Jones. That's the guy. We got to get rid of him. Once you trick everybody into believing that the people, the workers, are actually in charge and they have this voting thing going on, that's the fundamental key. A ton of people are for the most part, they're kind of live and let live people. When I meet with people and I have a chance to talk with them, yeah, I don't even try to swing them over to anarchists, but I push decentralization, and most people are in favor of that. But the brainwashing is so deep, and that's what the movie shows. The brainwashing is just so deep once you believe you've been set free by this system, this governmental system, i.e. Smith coming in, buying the plantation, setting you free and setting it up. The people are so wedded to that. They defend it even in the face of obvious facts. They will defend it. The movie only tries. It doesn't offer anything else except for an insight, a window into the system you actually have, and allows people to make that decision about, is that really free? The insane kind of Jones Plantation credits, central banking deal, the fake elections, the fact that we control all of the security and those guys are on our side, and just we have all the control under the guise of not having it. I hope that honestly that people see who produce these movies, who finance these movies, that you can make movies about actual freedom that can make money, because that's all they care about. They're gonna finance a movie that's gonna make money. That's it, and I don't blame them. They're gonna prefer a movie that's not about communism or some kind of crap if they think it can make money. But given the choice between a movie that's maybe pro-commie but would be a super hit, and a movie that's not going to make money, may even lose money, they're going to choose the other, and I don't blame them. okay, what am I supposed to expect that they dump money into a project that's going to lose? No, but, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, maybe we can get some people who are fairly wealthy, who've made fortunes using the system and didn't really know it and didn't figure out till later that, you know, this is a project worth supporting. That, you know, these kinds of projects, they need to be financed. That if you want to leave some kind of legacy that you could have any pride in, you know, I believe we have an obligation to the next generations. That's just something I believe. And, you know, I wrote my blog, I do the quash, and it's because if you don't teach the next generation, you're screwed. And that's the system they're using against us. They took control of the education, the media, and everything else in a completely vertical column with the central banking. They bought it all off, and so the people never get exposed to any other ideas, and then they literally think this is the only option. And, you know, once that's gone, completely gone, it's not going to be coming back. And so I hope, like I said, that this starts a kind of based media movement that people are like, yeah, okay, the indie film, such and such. Well, if you made a bigger movie that actually had, you know, a little bit wider appeal, and they can see that, wow, I can make money with this. This is fun. Let's do that. Let's make movies like this and feel good about it as opposed to something else. And so that would be my real hope, is that it makes money. That's been primary goal. Look, we got to make a movie that's good, that people like, they want to see. It doesn't matter how good the movie is if people don't want to go see it. And so you have to make a movie that's, you know, within the limitations that we have, that is really good and has a good message, and show people in that industry. I suspect there's a lot of people who are very conservative / libertarian kinds of people, but they are deep undercover in that industry because you can't survive the way it is right now. And so we would hope that we'd have an alternative, true, competitive way that people like that could make a living and could have a nice career and could, you know, make movies that are truly alternative for people. I think there's a lot more people who'd be interested in that than people might believe right now. That's really one of the main goals. Is because, you know, I can't determine what people find out, but I know people in the industry who are liberty people. They'll know what the movie's about, and they'll see whether the movie made money. And if the movie made money and they knew what it's about, they'll be a lot more interested in making another kind of movie.
Justice for TT! Justice for TT!
I think we've got a lot of really great stuff in the can. I don't envy Andrew's position of having to edit this together. It's going to be tough. But we have like a lot of great scenes. I really think we got some great characters in there, and we have it's so crazy because the topic's so crazy. I think if he can pull it all together, and it's a good thing that he's been on the set. I've never been on a set. I have no idea if the editor is on the set while the movie's being shot or whether they hire him later. Yeah, see, and I was thinking they probably aren't. And so if you're not on this set, you'd have no chance of piecing this movie together, okay? But luckily, he's there. So he's already making mental notes. Yeah, of course, it's not every single thing is marked down. Like, it would be nice to have somebody who could mark us that. But, you know, I've been involved in pulling large projects together. And if you've been in the project the whole time, it's hard to describe, but everybody knows the experience of, like, you kind of know there's something, and I didn't see it, and believe me, it's in there. Okay, you look somewhere, oh, there it is. Okay, so he's going to be in that position. He's thinking about how to put it together, and I'm just glad it's not me. That's all I can say, because that is going to take a lot of work. But, you know, for him, it's the same thing. It's a labor of love, and he wants it to make money, and you know, he's spending his time on this. Nobody's in this project for the money unless the project works. But I think he's got a good vision, honestly. I mean, he's got a good vision. And we spent a lot of nights and late nights trying to slash and rewrite, and what can we drop and what can we use and change, and not having any experience in that area, I'm not sure how it all comes out. I know this, I've watched some of what they call dailies. And like, Teddy's shooting, it's pretty. I mean, every one of his frames, like, wow, it looks good. You know, it looks so different it's what's so funny. Like, it looks so different through the camera lens on the monitor than it does on the setup. It's just, you know, I'm in them a lot of times and I'll think, well, I don't know. And then I'll look at like, oh, that's crazy how different it looks. And so I think what we have on film, digital, whatever it is they record on, I think it can be pieced together to be really, really good. That's why I'm encouraged, even though I was really worn down last week. Slept a lot today. I mean, a lot. Because I was very, very tired, and we have one more week of shooting, and I want to be ready. That was one of the things I promised Andrew. Was like, look, I don't know how well I can act. I have no idea. I said, I think I'll be able to do this pretty easily, but I promised him I will be prepared. Okay, I will be prepared. I mean, it took months and months to grow this insanity out, and it wasn't pleasant. I don't like looking like I lived in 1848, scare little kids, and when I go ice skating, I look like a complete maniac because I skate backwards a lot, my hair blows out, and we got this insane look. But, you know, I'd made a promise to, you know, to the guy that hired me that, you know, I'm going to be prepared. You know, I'm going to be able to take direction. I'm going to be ready. I'm not going to, you know, it's not going to be like, God, geez, man, this lead just sucks. We can't do anything. That's not going to be the situation. I could have memorized the whole script, but I only had to memorize my stuff. Like, that's not that complicated. So I know the scenes, and you give me a new scene, give me a paragraph, I can memorize it in the morning. It's not that big a deal. And that was kind of the promise I'd made, that, you know, you don't get any chance to go back and do it again.
Right.
You know, so I gave it a lot of thought over the many months, and, you know, practice in front of the mirror. How do I look crazy? Can I look crazy? How do I look when I'm doing this other thing, just to make sure that that's how it would appear from the camera's angle. Because I know that I don't want to be involved in something where it's like, I don't want to tell people, because no one's going to recognize me unless they know me very well, because I don't look anything like this in person. I mean, nothing like this. And especially on the camera.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I already recognized me, but I didn't want to be in a situation where it's like, dude, really? I was, you know, kind of embarrassed that really kind of sucked, and you just kind of hear murmurings. I did not want that to be the situation. I wanted people to be like, dude, you were fucking great, man. We loved it. And that was my goal the whole time. So I hope I brought it off and, you know, find out when the movie comes out.
Bo Jones!